Can I ask you something? The one thing that your film reminded me of was, which I don't know whether you ever saw, was the Kirby Dick film. This film is not yet rated.
Love that movie. I love that film.
But there was the connection being that what Kirby Dick did was he was making a film about rating a movie, and the way he did it was he kept submitting his movie to the ratings board to get them to rate it at as it was so far. And I wonder whether you had that in the back of your mind as sort of similar. You're doing exactly the thing that the movie's about.
Yeah, it was one of the things. Like, I'd seen that film years ago when it first came out, and I love that movie. I think Kirby Dick's such a great filmmaker, really smart filmmaker. Great sense of humor, and it was one of those, like, this is one of those films where you're so in the process that it is, really a very deep meta narrative that's happening simultaneously as you're watching the movie, as that film was.
There's a moment in the film in which you're talking to one of the people who are trying to sell product placement to, and they say, well, what is the movie going to be? And you go, well, this is it now. This is actually it happening right around you.
Yeah.
And presumably, since that was all it ever was, didn't anybody mind you going into those negotiations with cameras? Because it appears to me that they didn't realise at the time that you were going with the cameras that you were actually making the movie right there and then.
Yeah.
I mean, although they must have noticed the cameras.
That's right. No, they saw the cameras. Like, it wasn't like we were going in hiding. There were people that we showed up with cameras that wouldn't let us in when we were going into meetings. But, a lot of them did, and it was great. Because in those moments, those are real conversations that you're seeing happening in real time. We don't shoot things multiple times. It's like one and done. And so we go in with two cameras, blazing and get what you get. And what we got was phenomenal.
What are the alternatives? Or what should the rules be as far as you're concerned?
I mean, well, the biggest thing for me is, I think, when you look at big studio movies, once you reach a certain threshold of a budget, I think that you do get a point where product placement plays a much bigger part. These are movies that, suddenly start to eclipse, I'd say, like $35-40 million, but there are still people who can play within that space that can be free from that. There are people who can push back on a studio and say it's not happening, like the Coen brothers or Wes Anderson or Paul Thomas Anderson, people who make, I think, very artistic but still very expensive movies. If you're making a movie in the studio system that is a commercial film, a comedy, drama, whatever it may be, you're going to get pushback from them to start to offset those costs, so that they can, limit their exposure. And it will be, somebody will show up, like Brett Ratner says in the movie, and will say, hey, could you have somebody drink this in the scene? And he's like, what are you talking about? And I think that you have to be willing to make that gamble if you're going to make those size of movies.
But your main complaint in the film is you're not specifically complaining about the idea of product placement. What you're saying is it happens everywhere. Or sponsorship. Your main complaint seems to be, and it's an interesting one, that the problem is when you don't see it. That actually one of your interviewers says, actually what I want is every time a product is being placed, I want a strap going along the bottom of the screen saying you're watching product placement. And
arrows popping up. He wants arrows. Everything.
But actually that argument is interesting, isn't it? So the problem is not sponsoring. The problem is not advertising. The problem is when it's done and you theoretically don't realise it's being done.
Which what's happened in the UK, which is something that I feel will happen in the United States, where at the beginning of TV shows, now that they've made product placement legal, there's, it'll say like TVMA for mature audiences, and then beside that will be like a P, letting you know that there's product placement in the show. You don't know what it is, but it's telling you that this show has it in there. I feel like something like that will start to happen in the US, even though you still won't know. And I also think that ultimately it needs to be left up to the creative people. I don't think things should be shoehorned in. J.J. Abrams says in the film, I'm about storytelling, not story selling. We live in a real world where if you're going to tell a story or make a movie that takes place in present day times, people drink Coca-Cola, they drive Fiats. So these are things that you want to have in the story if that is integral to your story. You got to figure out how to do it, and not have it take away from the narrative. But in terms of me, of letting people know, what is the greatest thing that happens out of the movie is once you see the greatest movie ever sold, it will officially ruin film and television for you forever, which I think is a fantastic thing. Like, once you watch this movie, you'll never look at a Hollywood movie the same way again. You'll see everything. You'll notice every product placement. You'll notice every product, even things that are so subtle, you'll see it in the shot, and you'll understand and know how it got there to begin with. And I think that's a great thing.
The things that are startling are the examples that you give of programs I haven't seen. There's a couple of TV shows in which people mention the brand name of a drink, and there's a whole conversation built around whether somebody should be. You think, did they actually broadcast that? Did the whole nation not get hold of them? And that is a commercial. You're having a conversation about a branded drink.
It's terrible. If people can go on YouTube, people who are listening right now, it's one of the greatest things you'll ever watch. It is on, if you go on YouTube and do a search for like Days of Our Lives, which is a soap opera in the United States, and they've written storylines storylines around products that have paid to be in the movie. So like Cheerios being one of them that is such a terrible scene where she goes, gosh, I'm so tired. You know what I need right now? And she pulls a box of Cheerios out of the cabinet and the guy goes, oh, Cheerios, eh? And she goes, yeah, you know what, I'm tired. It kind of boosts my energy. And you know, it like lowers your cholesterol and it's good for your heart. He goes, yeah, I heard that. It's like, it's amazing to see.
Tim in Marlow, greatly enjoying the conversation discussion. Generally agree with Mr. Spurlock, but he's wrong to say that ordinary punters do not benefit from sponsorship. If football clubs were not sponsored and did not receive TV money, the facilities we all enjoy would not be there. Or put another way, tickets would cost twice as much. Is that fair?
But they're not. The TV money most of the time isn't coming from sponsors. Most of the time, the TV money is coming from broadcasters. You know, the broadcasters are paying for the TV rights. The broadcasters are the ones giving. The league is giving them the money. You know, they're in the United States that all of the NFL contracts. You know, Fox pays $5 billion a year for the right to broadcast, you know, professional football. The sponsorship of the stadium doesn't go back to the fans. You know, that type of sponsorship is not what's feeding it.
But presumably, if the sponsor didn't give a lot of money to a club who've built the stadium, the ticket prices would cost even more.
I think that's completely inaccurate. I think that those stadiums make so much money, and I think that you consistently hear owners cry poor. They're like, "Oh my gosh, it's like, you know how much money it costs to run this?" As they're literally pocketing millions of dollars at every event just on the concessions and the parking and everything else. I mean, it's an insane amount of money that they make.
Martin in Beaufort says noughts and crosses or tic-tac-toe was essentially the moral basis for the movie War Games, which was rubbish, says Martin. He's wrong, because actually War Games was a terrific film. Do you remember that?
Yes, with Matthew Broderick.
Matthew Broderick. That's
right. It's called Thermonuclear War.
Global
thermonuclear
war.
Would you?
Yeah.
Isn't that a great film?
It's a very good film, yeah.
I love that.
This is from John Bainbridge. Product placement obviously works. It's just made me go to the Mane and Tail website. There I found a product called Herbal Grow Cream Therapy. Quote, a leave-in conditioning cream that nourishes, strengthens and fortifies hair from root to tip, featuring a photo of a model who looks remarkably like Morgan Spurlock.
Why?
Is that you?
It is. It's true. If you go to
You've actually turned up on their website now.
Well, that was the most amazing thing that happened around Greatest Movie Ever Sold was that we got the marketing departments of 22 companies helping to promote the film, which it was amazing. They didn't just give us money. You know, we got hard money, hard cash from certain companies, but then we also got all this soft money co-promotion. So if you got on JetBlue Airways, you know, when the film came out, the plane took off, and I was on the screen saying, "Welcome to the greatest airline you'll ever fly," and I did a plug for the airline and promoting the movie. You checked into a Hyatt hotel, you would get a card key that had the movie promotion on it. You turned on the TV in the hotel room. I came on the TV in the room. Amy's Pizza put stickers on all their boxes across the country. I mean, that co-promotion for a documentary was unheard of, and it was amazing what it did.
Do you feel you got uncomfortably close to the advertisers and actually quite enjoyed it in the because you have this kind of moral dilemma at the heart of the film, but actually you quite had a good time, didn't you?
Well, because I think we got to have our cake and eat it too with this film. I mean, I think that's what made the film great. Since we were able to retain creative control, what I love when you see the film is everything that we're critiquing in the beginning in the ad world is everything we use to sell you at the end of the film, and I don't think that kind of satire is lost.
Why does it say at the end of the film that you're contractually obliged to point out that Hair and Mane
and Tail
didn't pay?
Yeah, because Mane and Tail, which didn't give us money to be in the film, they basically said we don't pay for product placement, and in their contract, you know, it said it has to be made 100% clear to anyone who sees this movie now and forever that we didn't pay to be in the film. And when we finished the movie, I was like, I don't think it's clear that they didn't pay to be in the movie. Let's just put a card at the end that says that they didn't. So that way people know for sure they didn't give us a dime, but they still did all of this co-promotion around the movie, you know, that with their website, their mailing lists, horses around the world know about the movie.
You just like them. You went soft on them because you like them.
What's not to like about Mane?
It's a great it's a comedy product, though, isn't it? Inherently, it
was gold. Product. It was like I found gold in that store that day.
What are you going to do next, Morgan?
We just finished a film that premiered at the Toronto International Film Festival a couple weeks ago called Comic-Con Episode 4, A Fan's Hope, which is a film all about San Diego Comic-Con, the world's biggest kind of pop culture convention. Happens every summer in San Diego. So we follow 7 people into this kind of mecca of geekdom and kind of tell the story of what this place is all about.
You do lots of cosplay stuff.
There are lots of cosplay, both on and off camera, just for myself. And for people, I tell people who, anybody who has not liked a film I've made in the past, if you've hated every film I've made, I'm not in one frame of Comic-Con Episode 4, so you're going to love that movie.
What about remaking Where in the World is Osama bin Laden? Would you go and do that again?
Well, we already answered that question. You're welcome, President Obama. Done. Mission accomplished.
Morgan Spurlock, thanks very much indeed for coming in. Appreciate that.
Cheers.